Well, thank you for coming in for this parent-teacher conference. Jose is such a pleasure to have in class. We really enjoy him. He plays well with the other kids, and he's just a lot of fun to have in class. You can tell he definitely loves to learn. So we did some reading tests with him recently to see where he fell for his reading level, and Jose did an excellent job with his rhyming assessment. He could easily identify what words rhyme correctly and got all of the questions correct, so that was great. Phoneme manipulation is the first area where he really struggled. He scored the lowest on this test. Yeah. The first thing I noticed when testing Jose is when I pronounced the words, I enunciated every syllable heavily, and he did very well identifying those sounds and rhymes. But when he himself had to pronounce the words, he struggled more with identifying what each of the sounds were. Jose has the very basics of phonics mastered for his grade level, but he needs some serious one-on-one phonics lessons to help close the gap between his reading level and that of his peers. Jose did okay with the short vowel nonsense words. Very brief, short vowel words definitely seem to be what he's most comfortable with. I think a big part of this is because these are words that he's mastered in kindergarten, so they don't rely on any of his skills that he's learning in first grade. So yeah, he's doing great. He tries so hard all the tests. He's so eager to learn. He loves taking tests, which is a great trait to have. And so for the next assessment, I started with a list of words that Jose did very well on. He achieved independent level, which is the highest level you can achieve for that list. Most of these words I noticed he seemed to glance at and know from memorization more than actually reading what they are. He seemed very confident with this list and very happy to read them. I've noticed from tests prior to this and observing him read, Jose starts to struggle with reading independently when he's asked to read blended words and words not on the high frequency list in his class. He was a little less confident with this list and read them more slowly than the words before. Jose's comprehension is much stronger than his verbal reading skills, which is very common for children. So when someone else reads him a book, he can tell you the characters and the story, but when he himself has to read the book, he has a much harder time reflecting on what he's read, which is very common because he's struggling so hard to read the book that by the time he gets to the end of it, he's just exhausted himself. So we're going to work on that so he can read independently and also retain the material. That's a goal for us. So for him, he loves being read aloud to. It's one of his favorite things to do. He's always asking me to read to him. He loves talking about stories. So he definitely has an interest in reading and writing, and we're going to hopefully hone in on that interest and go from there. So my recommendation is for Jose to meet with a reading specialist once a week for an hour a week and see how that goes, and maybe in a month we can test him again, and if it seems like he's making improvements, we'll stay with 1 hour a week, and if not, we might need to improve that time and make it greater. So do you have any questions?
No, I think that's a great idea to have him see a reading specialist. We do read with him at home, but it sometimes helps to have a professional work with him.
Well, good. Well, I think that he'll really benefit from it, and luckily he's only in first grade, so he loves to read, and this is the time where we can close that gap before it becomes an issue later on in his school. So thank you for coming in.
Great, thank you.